"You have to earn me," said the one you thought would be yours forever. Have you ever felt the ground slipping away from under your feet? When the reality you lived in suddenly turns out to be nothing but an illusion? Imagine this. You come home, expecting the usual warmth, but instead, you're met with a challenge. A cold stare, a calm yet ruthless voice. I don't feel the same anymore, but maybe, if you try hard enough. This isn't just a story about love and its collapse. It's a chess game of emotions, where every move is a test of inner strength. Manipulations, silent battles, icy phrases, all hiding one question: who will leave first? Who will break? But what if the one they tried to control simply stops playing? What if he just turns around and walks away? Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now, let's get started. I can still pinpoint the exact moment my world shifted. That evening felt like any other. I walked through the front door, expecting the usual routine. I'd toss my keys on the counter, loosen my tie, and maybe sink into the couch for a few minutes before deciding what to do about dinner. But something was off. The air inside the house carried an unnatural stillness. Fiona, my wife of 7 years, stood in the kitchen, arms folded across her chest. Her expression was unreadable, not upset, not tearful, just distant. When she finally spoke, her voice was composed, deliberate. "We need to talk." That phrase never meant anything good. I let out a slow breath, already preparing myself for whatever was coming. "All right," I said, setting my bag down. She took a steady inhale, as if she had rehearsed the next words carefully. Then, meeting my gaze, she said, "You need to earn my intimacy." I blinked, caught completely off guard. "What?" Her posture didn't change. "You heard me?" A disbelieving chuckle escaped me, but she remained rigid, as if she had just uttered some undeniable truth. "I don't feel the same anymore," she explained. "I don't know if it's me or you, but something is missing, and I don't want to force it." I studied her, trying to decode her words. Missing. What exactly did she mean by that? "You mean—" I shook my head, searching for clarity. "Are you saying affection? Connection? What's gone, Fiona?" "All of it." She hesitated, then added, "I don't feel drawn to you like I once did. But I want to. I just think that if you put in more effort, if you tried harder, maybe we could get it back." Something inside me shifted. Not quite anger, but understanding. She wanted me to prove myself, as if I hadn't already spent years investing everything into this marriage. I searched her face for any hint that this was some kind of test, a joke, anything to make it make sense. But she was resolute. I exhaled sharply. "Let me get this straight," I said, my voice sharper than before. "You're saying I have to prove myself to you? Like I'm competing for a reward?" She shrugged slightly. "It's not about proving anything. It's about making me feel wanted." Wanted. As if I hadn't spent every day showing her exactly that. As if she had ever stopped to consider whether I felt wanted in return. My jaw tightened. I glanced away, forcing myself to remain calm. If I let my frustration show, she'd turn it against me. Instead, I asked, "And what about me? Don't I need to feel wanted too? Or does that not matter?" She sighed, weary. "I don't know, Nathan. I just know I need more." And that was it. This wasn't about us. This wasn't about fixing things. It was about her. I thought back to every compromise, every sacrifice I had made to keep our marriage running smoothly. All the times I'd prioritized her needs over mine. And still, it wasn't enough. Now, suddenly, I had to fight for something I'd assumed was secure. The worst part? She didn't even seem nervous about saying it. I didn't argue that night, not because I agreed, but because I needed time to process. Fiona expected me to chase her. She wanted me to scramble, to jump through hoops to prove I was still worthy of her affection. But instead of reacting, I observed. And immediately, the game began. The first few days, she tested the waters with subtle comments. One morning over coffee, she idly stirred her cup and remarked, "You used to surprise me more." I nodded, saying nothing. That evening, while scrolling through her phone on the couch, she sighed dramatically. "Wow. My coworker Justin just surprised his wife with a weekend getaway. So romantic. Can you imagine?" Bait. I didn't bite. She glanced at me, waiting for some kind of response. An insecure, "Well, I've done nice things for you too," or a guilty, "Maybe I should plan something." But I refused to play. "Cool," I said, eyes on the TV. Her lips pressed into a thin line. That's when she started trying harder. The next phase was visual. She began dressing differently. Tight skirts, full makeup, perfume she hadn't worn in years. At first I thought she was doing it for herself. But then I noticed how often she lingered in front of the mirror, adjusting her hair, sneaking glances at me, waiting for a reaction. A compliment. A sign that I noticed. But I didn't give her one. I could sense her frustration growing. One evening, as I scrolled through my phone on the couch, she walked past me, deliberately slow, wearing a dress that accentuated every curve. She paused at the hallway mirror, adjusted an earring, flicked her hair over one shoulder. She was waiting for me to look up, to say something, to validate her. I kept my eyes on my phone. She cleared her throat. "I don't know why I even bother looking nice." Without missing a beat, I replied, "Then don't." She hesitated, watching me intently. When I offered nothing in return, not a glance, not a word, she pivoted sharply and walked away. By morning, she had withdrawn into herself. Not distant, not hostile, just waiting, expecting me to falter, to retract the things I hadn't even spoken aloud, to hand her an apology she knew she wasn't owed. But I didn't. And once she realized that, she adjusted. She started arranging her life without me in it. Her plans no longer included my presence. She filled her days with friends, casually name-dropping colleagues, especially the men, like they had naturally come up in conversation. I saw through it immediately. One evening, as I poured a drink, she appeared in the doorway, her heels clicking against the hardwood, a sleek black dress accentuating her frame. Her makeup was sharper, her hair deliberately styled. She moved unhurriedly, reaching for her clutch on the counter, fingers idly grazing the surface. "I might be out late," she remarked, her voice effortlessly indifferent, but her eyes remained locked onto mine, expectant. She wanted me to ask, "With who?" To react, to frown and say, "Late? Where?" She needed confirmation, proof that it still mattered to me, that she still mattered to me. I took a slow sip of my drink. "All right," I said smoothly. "Enjoy yourself." For the briefest second, her expression faltered. A flicker of something, annoyance, frustration, before she masked it again and strode out the door. And that's when it struck me. This wasn't about us anymore. This was about control. And she was losing hers. The more I disengaged, the more unsettled she became. Her approach shifted, abandoning subtle games for more overt reactions. The off-handed mentions of other men, the veiled allusions to a life beyond us, they disappeared. In their place, a sharper edge took root. The confrontations started small. One night, as she got ready for bed, she turned abruptly and snapped, "You don't even try anymore." I lay on my side, scrolling through my phone. I didn't look up. "Try what?" She gave a short, humorless laugh. "To fix this. To care. Do you even care about us anymore?" Setting my phone aside, I met her eyes. "And what exactly is broken, Fiona?" She hesitated, lips parting, but no words came. Eventually, she exhaled. "I don't know, Nathan. That's the problem." I nodded slowly. "So let me get this straight. You don't even know what's wrong, but I'm the one failing?" Her jaw clenched. Without another word, she turned her back and slipped under the covers. I exhaled, picked up my phone, and let the silence stretch between us. Then, things escalated. One night, she burst through the door, slamming her purse onto the table with enough force that I expected something inside to shatter. I glanced up from my dinner. Rough night? Arms folded, she stood rigid. Do you even realize how late it is? I glanced at the clock. Nearly midnight. Yeah, I said, taking another bite. Her eyes narrowed. And that doesn't bother you? I swallowed. Should it? Silence. Her fingers dug into her arms, her face taut. She was holding something back, something she wanted to say but couldn't. Finally, she exhaled sharply. You don't care, do you? I set my fork down, wiped my mouth, and leaned back in my chair. She was waiting for a sign, concern, jealousy, anything that would prove I was still tethered to her. But I had nothing left to give. You want the truth, Fiona? My voice was even. She stared at me, unwilling to be the first to speak. No, I said. I don't. I watched as her expression shifted. Shock, then disbelief, then something else entirely. Fear. For so long, she had manipulated me into thinking I needed to fight for her. But now, it was her grasp slipping, and she had no idea how to stop it. That night, as we lay in bed, she didn't move. She was tense, motionless. I stared at the ceiling, feeling nothing. No sadness, no anger, not even relief. Just emptiness. And that's when I knew I was done. The next morning, I woke before her. Sitting at the edge of the bed, I listened to her slow, steady breathing. There was nothing left to repair, nothing worth salvaging. The certainty settled over me like a truth I had always known, but never acknowledged. It was over. I went to the kitchen, brewed coffee, and stood by the window, watching the world outside. Behind me, I heard her approach, her footsteps tentative. She lingered before speaking. Morning. Morning. She poured herself a cup of coffee, casting a glance my way, waiting for me to break the silence. When I didn't, she sighed. Look, about last night. I turned to face her, cutting her off. I want a divorce. The words shattered the stillness between us. She blinked. What? I took a sip of coffee, letting the moment stretch. Then calmly I repeated, I want a divorce. A sharp, incredulous laugh escaped her. You're just upset. But I wasn't. Not anymore. She flicked her wrist dismissively, as though swatting away an insignificant thought. You'll move on, she murmured. I shook my head. No, Fiona, I won't. That was when I saw it. Not sadness, not guilt, but fear. A raw, unguarded terror flashed in her eyes. Her grip tightened around the coffee mug as she swallowed hard. You're serious? Yeah, I said, my voice firm. I am. She studied me for a long moment, as if seeing me clearly for the first time. Then she scoffed, shaking her head. You're being ridiculous. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Her gaze flitted around the room, searching for an escape route, for some way to flip the situation to her advantage, the way she always did. But this time, she had nothing. No justifications, no manipulations, no twisted logic to keep me ensnared. Because, for the first time in years, I was no longer playing by her rules. That night, I packed my bags. She sat on the couch, arms folded, watching in silence. No arguments, no pleas, no desperate attempts to stop me. She still believed this was temporary, just another argument that would end with me caving. She assumed, as always, that I'd come back. But she was wrong. When I zipped up the final suitcase and grabbed my keys, I lingered at the door. Some part of me expected her to say something, anything to make this real. But she didn't. She remained there, lips pressed into a firm line, her gaze lowered. I exhaled, turned the knob, and stepped outside. She didn't stop me, and I didn't look back. 2 weeks later, I had my own place. It wasn't extravagant, just a modest apartment, the kind of space that signified a fresh start, but it was mine. No more silent treatment, no more walking on eggshells, no more waiting for someone else to decide if I was worthy of love. At first, the silence felt strange. The space, the autonomy, it all seemed unfamiliar, as if I had to rewire myself to embrace them. I expected regret to creep in, the gnawing sensation that I had abandoned something worth saving. But it never came. Instead, I felt weightless. I felt free. I started reclaiming the pieces of myself I had neglected. The gym, old hobbies, friendships I had let slip away. And then, by chance, I met Mia. There was no calculated effort, no desperate search. It just happened. With her, everything was different. No games, no hidden expectations, no emotional minefields waiting to detonate. It was effortless. It was real. We spent more time together. Coffee dates, long walks, conversations that stretched into the night. I hadn't been looking for something new, but I found it anyway. And then, one evening, as we strolled through the city, hand in hand, sharing quiet laughter, I felt it. A shift in the air, a sharp, piercing gaze cutting through the warmth of the moment. I turned, and there she was, Fiona. She stood frozen on the sidewalk, staring at me as if she'd seen a ghost. For a moment, she didn't move. Then, with slow deliberation, she stepped forward. Nathan. Her voice was small, uncertain, like she wasn't convinced I was real. I nodded. Fiona. Her eyes flickered between Mia and me, the realization settling in. You moved on? Mia squeezed my hand. I met Fiona's gaze, my voice steady. Yeah, I have. Her lips parted slightly, her expression stunned, as if she had never once considered the possibility of my happiness without her. Her hands curled into fists at her sides. For a second, I thought she might say something, try to bend the moment to her will. But she didn't. Instead, she turned sharply and walked away, her movements stiff, too controlled, like she was barely holding herself together. I watched her disappear into the crowd, and I knew. This wasn't over. That night, the calls started. Then the texts. How could you move on so fast? Did I mean nothing to you? We need to talk, please. I ignored them. Then she found Mia online and sent her a message. Stay away from my husband. I had expected something like this. Desperation always drove her back to me. And sure enough, one night, she showed up at my apartment. Nathan, please, she whispered, tears shimmering in her eyes. I made a mistake. I exhaled slowly. No, Fiona. You made a choice. She shook her head violently. You're my husband. I met her stare, unwavering. Not anymore. She pleaded, sobbed, tried to rewind time and pull me back into the life I had left behind. But none of it mattered. I was done. I'm happy now, Fiona. Don't come here again. Her mouth opened like she had something left to say, but I had nothing left to hear. I took a step back and closed the door. For a moment I stood there, staring at it. But there was no doubt, no second guessing, only certainty. And for the first time in a long time, I was excited about what came next. This story has come to an end. Love is not a one-way game. When a relationship turns into a fight for attention, manipulation, and control, it's no longer love. It's a trap. No one should have to earn the right to be loved. True feelings are built on mutual respect, care, and support, not on tests and challenges. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is not to fight for someone who doesn't appreciate you, but to let go and save yourself. Choose people who see your worth without conditions. Be with those who don't make you prove your love, but simply love you. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you. He had a key. One small key, given out of friendship, and a choice, to leave it untouched, or to use it. The threshold, the click of the lock, a few steps, and everything he thought he knew about love loyalty, and friendship vanished with the turn of a doorknob. 10 days before the wedding march, a betrayal that echoed like a gunshot in silence. She lied. He covered for her. Everything was hidden, perfectly staged, until one accident became the beginning of the end. What do you do when the two people closest to you are the ones who betray you? When instead of congratulations, you get a message. I didn't know how to tell you, man. You can erase the date from the calendar, you can cancel the reception, or you can make a move no one walks away clean from. There are no right choices here, only instinct, pain, and the cold calm of someone who's lost everything. But sometimes, loss is the only road to freedom, and he took it. All the way. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now, let's get started. My name is Grant, and I was meant to marry Ava. Just 10 days before our wedding, we were seated across from each other at our favorite restaurant, laughing as we playfully argued over which song should play during the cake cutting. Ava leaned toward something silly and cheerful, something that would make everyone chuckle. I preferred something classic and timeless. We never actually made a decision. Now, I'm parked outside her apartment, sitting alone in my car, painfully aware that I'll never get to hear that song, whichever one it might have been. Ava and I were together for 5.5 years. We met during a trivia night at a cozy little bar downtown. She beat me in the final round and made a teasing remark about men being terrible at multitasking. I was instantly hooked. Her quick wit, that crooked smile, it all pulled me in. We weren't perfect, but I always believed we were solid. For nearly 9 months, we poured ourselves into planning the wedding. Everything was in place. The venue booked, her dress chosen, invitations mailed, and the seating chart debated over countless times. My best friend since high school, Travis, was set to be my best man. We had been through every phase of life together: wild college nights, bad breakups, questionable choices, and even that chaotic weekend in Vegas we agreed never to speak of again. But about a month before the wedding, something shifted. Ava started going out more often. At first, it was just one night a week. Girls' night, she called it. Seemed harmless enough. Then it became 2 nights, then 3. She'd come home late, each time with some vague story. Emma needed to vent. Sabrina had another fight with her boyfriend. I tried to stay calm. I didn't want to come off as controlling. Still, it got harder to ignore, especially when she'd walk in around 1 a.m., smelling like a mix of bars and high-end perfume, too drained to talk. One night, I finally brought it up. "You've been out more than you've been home lately," I said. "The wedding's almost here and we barely spend time together." She rolled her eyes and let out a sharp laugh. "Oh, so now I need your permission to see my friends." "That's not what I meant," I replied. "But don't you think it's weird that we haven't shared a meal all week?" Her voice turned cold. "We're just busy, Grant. That's normal." And that was the end of it. She walked off to bed. I stayed on the couch, staring blankly ahead, trying to shake the sinking feeling in my chest. After that, small things began to jump out at me. Her phone was always face down. If I walked into the room, she'd quickly close or switch whatever was on the screen. At the same time, Travis started skipping our Tuesday basketball games. First, it was headaches, then work stuff. Eventually, he didn't even bother giving an excuse. One afternoon, I came home and found them in the kitchen. They were whispering, standing far too close. When they noticed me, they jolted apart like guilty kids. Ava gave a nervous little laugh. "We were just talking about your wedding gift," she said quickly. Travis nodded, way too fast. I brushed it off, told myself I was being paranoid. That stress and sleepless nights were messing with my head. I trusted them both, more than anyone. The thought of them betraying me didn't seem possible. Then, a few days before it all unraveled, Ava came home late again. She told me she'd been meeting with the wedding planner to finalize the menu. I kissed her cheek and paused. She was wearing cologne, a man's, not mine. It was unfamiliar, sharp, citrusy, expensive, the kind of scent that lingers. That night, I couldn't sleep. The smell haunted me, like a warning I didn't want to understand. The next day, everything fell apart. I was driving to pick up Travis for our tuxedo fitting. I got there early and parked nearby. That's when I saw Ava's car already in front of his building. My stomach dropped. I stayed put. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 20. I watched shadows flicker through the blinds, someone moving around inside. I could have driven away, pretended I didn't see it, but I didn't. Back when Travis and I were roommates, he'd given me a spare key. He had a habit of locking himself out. I still had it, so I used it. I let myself in quietly. I heard their laughter first, Ava's light giggle, Travis's familiar laugh. Then it stopped. Then came the soft, unmistakable sounds of intimacy. I told myself maybe it was just the TV. Maybe I was wrong. But I wasn't. I walked down the hall, stopped in front of the bedroom door, and pushed it open. There they were. Ava and Travis, tangled in the sheets, completely exposed. Her face froze in disbelief. His eyes widened like a deer caught in headlights. "Grant," she breathed. "This isn't—" "Don't," I cut her off. My voice was steady. "Just don't." I stood there for a moment longer, pulled out my phone, snapped one picture, and slid it back into my pocket. Travis opened his mouth, but I didn't hear a word. I turned and walked out. No shouting, no scenes, no slammed doors. I just left. I got in my car and drove aimlessly for what felt like hours until I landed at a cheap motel off the highway. I didn't sleep at all that night, just lay on the stiff mattress, staring at the bumpy ceiling while a muted infomercial flickered on the TV. My phone buzzed endlessly, calls, texts, voicemails from both Ava and Travis. I didn't answer a single one. I ignored every single call. By sunrise, my phone showed 43 missed ones. Ava had sent a text saying she was on her way to the motel, insisting she needed to explain everything. I had no idea how she'd found me at that crummy roadside place. Maybe she used some app to trace my location, or maybe she'd just driven around until she stumbled upon my car outside. Could have been dumb luck. Around noon, someone knocked. I opened the door, and there she was, standing like a shadow of herself, pale, drained, her eyes swollen and ringed in red. No makeup, unlike her. Just raw, stripped down. We stared at each other for a few beats. I stepped aside. She walked in. "I know what you saw," she said in a hushed voice, "but it's not what it looked like." I didn't say anything, just stared. She perched on the edge of the bed, her fingers tightly woven like she was trying to hold herself together. "It wasn't intentional," she went on. "It just happened. We were drinking, and then, God, I didn't mean for it to get that far." Still, I said nothing. She looked up at me, her expression desperate. "Please, say something." "You slept with my best friend," I said, each word landing heavy. "In his bed, a few days before we were supposed to get married." "It was a mistake," she murmured. "It didn't mean anything." "Then why?" I asked. "And don't feed me the 'we were drunk' line." Her eyes dropped to the floor. "I don't know. I got scared. You've been so distant, always working late, stuck in your head, thinking about your job, deadlines, everything but us." She hesitated, then added, "Travis listened." Her voice held something like blame, like I'd driven her there. I let out a bitter laugh. "So, talking turned into sleeping together?" She winced. "I thought we were solid," I said. "Everything I've been doing, working long hours, pushing myself, was for us. I was building a future, and you couldn't wait one more week?" Tears started to pool in her eyes. "Grant, please, let's not end everything. Just put it on hold. The wedding, we can pause it. We can fix this. You've already paid for the venue, the catering, my dress. That's where I snapped. Your dress? I repeated sharp. That's what you're thinking about? After wrecking everything? She stood abruptly. Yes, I messed up. But one mistake doesn't have to destroy us. We don't have to throw away everything we've built. One mistake? I echoed. You think this was just a single lapse? I've seen the way you two have been acting lately. Off, secretive. This wasn't some one-night accident, was it? She didn't respond. The silence said enough. Get out, I said. My voice was quiet, but firm. Grant! Go! Now! She didn't argue, just turned and walked out, her shoulders shaking as she went. That's when it hit me. This wasn't something you come back from. It was finished. The next morning, I got to work unraveling it all. First the venue, then the caterer. Lost the deposits, didn't care. Canceled the DJ with zero hesitation. 40 grand, gone. Didn't matter. I just wanted it wiped clean, like none of it had ever been real. That night, Ava called again. I picked up. I just want to talk, she said. Her voice was soft, fragile. No, I answered. I don't need more explanations. I'm letting everyone know why the wedding's off. You can't do that, she snapped, suddenly furious. That's private. Private, I said, letting out a cold laugh. Was it private when you climbed into bed with Travis? Then I ended the call. I opened my laptop, pulled up the guest list, and typed out a mass email. The wedding has been canceled due to infidelity. Thank you for your support. Any gifts will be returned. Just to be crystal clear, I attached the photo, the one that left nothing to doubt. Responses flooded in. Friends, family, co-workers. Shock, mostly. A lot of support. Some were pissed on my behalf. A few offered help, returning gifts, dealing with vendors, whatever I needed. Ava's mom called, her voice trembling. I'm so sorry, Grant. I had no idea. Please take care of yourself. Her dad didn't bother softening it. If I were you, I'd have gone further. You're handling this better than most. As for Travis? Silence. Not a single word. But Hazel, his girlfriend, got the email too. A few hours later, she messaged me. Thanks for telling me. We're done. He's dead to me. Another connection, torched. The day we were supposed to say, I do, I just drove. No destination, no map. Just the road stretching ahead until the skyline faded and I found the ocean. I pulled into a lookout spot high on a cliff, parked the car, and sat on a bench, watching the waves crash below. I stayed there for hours. No calls, no messages, no one. Just silence. The sea howled beneath my feet, its rhythm crashing in sync with the mess in my mind. For once, the world around me mirrored the chaos I felt inside. Eventually, I found myself in a dive bar just off the highway. I ordered a beer, slid into a booth, and stared ahead without seeing a thing. I wasn't thinking. I wasn't feeling much either. I just needed to be somewhere that wasn't home. That night, I swung by the apartment to collect a few essentials. Ava was already waiting outside, one hand gripping a bulging bag of my stuff, the other holding a white envelope. I wrote something down for you, she said. I don't want it, I answered, emotionless. You've got a week to get the rest, I told her. After that, it's either donated or trashed. She looked hurt. That's harsh. I didn't move. Not as harsh as what you did, I replied. I'm just cleaning up the wreckage. She didn't argue, just turned around and walked away. I spent the next week crashing at my cousin Miles's place, slept on a saggy pull-out couch, ate whatever leftovers were in the fridge, and spoke only when necessary. I ignored work, let calls go unanswered. I didn't live. I drifted. But amid that silence, a realization began to creep in. The worst was already behind me. I'd taken the blow, and somehow, I was still on my feet. A couple of weeks passed before I got a message from Hazel, Travis's ex. She said she needed to talk, still piecing things together. We met at a quiet little diner. She showed up in a hoodie, no makeup, with the same hollow stare I'd been seeing in my own reflection. We talked for hours. We laid out timelines, connected the dots, and the truth slowly surfaced. Ava and Travis had been lying for months, maybe longer. All those work trips, the wedding errands, the late-night runs, just smoke and mirrors. We met up again a few days later. No pretense, no goal, just two people looking for something that didn't feel like betrayal. That turned into late-night calls, shared dinners, movie marathons. One night, I leaned in and kissed her, and she let me. Hazel and I were together for about 4 months. It was messy, raw, and undefined, but it was real. We both understood what we were, survivors, clinging to each other in the wreckage. Eventually, we said it out loud. She'd met someone else. We parted gently and stayed in touch. Not long after, I moved into a new place across town and hit restart. Landed a better job, higher pay, better hours, people I could actually stand. Turned the spare room into a home gym, laced up my sneakers, and started sweating out the noise. Months down the line, I ran into Ava at the grocery store. She was by the self-checkout, holding a small basket. She looked thinner, more worn down. Her eyes widened when they met mine. She asked if we could talk. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We stepped into the parking lot. She didn't try to pretend. "I've been seeing a therapist," she said, "trying to understand why I blew everything up." I gave a small nod, said nothing. There wasn't much left to say. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," she added. "I just wanted you to hear that I'm sorry. I know I ruined something good." No theatrics, no crying, just a sincere apology from someone I once loved. "I hope you find peace," I told her, and I meant it. Years later, I got married. Her name's Chloe. We met at a game night. She annihilated everyone at Scrabble and didn't even brag about it. I asked her out the next day. We had a backyard wedding at her parents' place. 40 guests, all close. Her dad grilled steaks. Our first dance was to a song that played on a busted jukebox the night we first kissed. No drama, no shadows, just love. I didn't invite anyone from my past. No Ava, no Travis, not a single name from that chapter. I haven't heard from them in years, though bits of their story drift back occasionally through mutual acquaintances. Last I heard, they stayed together for a while, but it was rocky. Someone mentioned therapy. Someone else said Travis got fired, couldn't keep it together. Ava's supposedly working a job she hates, stuck behind a desk. That's all I know, and all I care to know. Chloe knows every detail of my story. She's never once looked at me like I'm broken, only like someone who's been through hell and came out whole. We're talking about starting a family now. I've got my own business, same field, but I'm in charge. Funny how the thing that once caged me now feels like freedom. Sometimes, I still think about that moment outside Travis's place, the exact second when everything unraveled. I wonder what would have happened if I'd just driven away. But then I look at Chloe, and I know. That was the day my old life ended, and thank God it did. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you? He thought he had everything under control. The job, the love, the cozy home. She said she was happy. Made smoothies in the mornings, kissed him goodbye, sent sweet little texts. And then she just said it. I want an open relationship. But behind the pretty words were unfamiliar hands, foreign scents, and someone else's bed. And when the masks finally fall, the truth doesn't slap you in the face. It carves you out from the inside. No fights, no drama, just a silence louder than any scream. She called it freedom. He called it betrayal, wrapped in trendy language. Are you ready to see what infidelity and cold revenge look like without the theatrics? To feel what it's like when everything collapses, and someone rises from the ashes, not with vengeance, but with facts in hand? When silence becomes the final word, and justice arrives not with fists, but in a neatly compiled folder. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now let's get started. My name is Francis. Up until about a year ago, I genuinely thought I had life under control. I worked full-time as a high school history teacher, spent my weekends refurbishing vintage guitars, and shared a home with my wife, Kara. We'd been together for over 10 years. She was deep in the tech world, working at a big-name SaaS company that paid well and kept her climbing higher with each passing quarter. We couldn't have been more different. I thrived on routine and calm. Kara was a whirlwind, fast-talking, always moving, always scheming up her next big leap. Somehow, our contrasting energies worked, or at least, I believed they did. That illusion shattered one regular Thursday evening. She came through the door later than her usual time. Not late enough to cause alarm, but just enough to make me glance at the clock more than once. No greeting, no kiss, just let her bag fall to the floor like it carried 1,000 pounds. I was at the kitchen table, buried in a stack of student essays. "Long day?" I asked. She didn't reply right away, just poured herself a glass of wine, her silent signal that something was wrong. She stood there for a few beats before finally turning toward me. "Francis, we need to talk." My gut twisted. That sentence has a way of doing that, especially when it comes out of nowhere. I lowered my pen and looked up. "All right," I said carefully. "What's going on?" She sat across from me, fingers gripping the wine glass like it might keep her anchored. "I've been thinking a lot about us," she began. I frowned. "Thinking how?" She stared down at her drink like she was rehearsing lines. "I feel stuck, like I'm suffocating, like I've been going through the motions instead of really living." I tilted my head, confused. "Not living? We just spent a week in Mexico." She shook her head gently. "It's not about vacations, Francis. It's about feeling free, discovering who I really am. I want to try an open marriage." I blinked, frozen. "What did you just say?" She gave a small shrug, bit her lip like she was asking to change weekend plans, not blow up our entire life. "I want to feel desired again. I need to know I'm still wanted." I stared at her. "You're saying you want to sleep with other people while we're still married?" She nodded, completely composed, as if this was just another grown-up decision to be made. "This is crazy," I muttered under my breath. "Are you already seeing someone?" I asked, watching her carefully. Her eyes flicked, just for a second, but I saw it. "No, of course not. Francis, come on. Why would you think that?" "Because that's how this kind of thing always starts," I said, my voice low and even. "People don't just wake up after 11 years and suddenly want to be pursued again." "It's not like that," she insisted. "I'm not having an affair. I'm trying to be honest with you. This is what people do now. It's progressive." "Progressive," I repeated, a bitter laugh escaping. "So now cheating is just modern love?" She crossed her arms. "You're making this harder than it has to be." I stood slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. "No, Kara, you made it hard the moment you decided I wasn't enough anymore." She said nothing, just stared into her glass, like that was where the real conversation was happening. The days after felt unreal, like I was drifting through someone else's life. We barely spoke. She still made her smoothies every morning, still gave me a kiss goodbye like everything was normal. But it wasn't. Something had cracked open between us, and the second blow came soon after. A week later, I got home earlier than expected. Parent-teacher conferences had been called off. I entered quietly and heard her voice coming from the guest room. She hadn't noticed me. Her tone was soft, almost flirtatious. "No, not tonight. He's home." My chest seized. I backed out as quietly as I came in. I didn't trust what I might do if I stayed. That night, I confronted her. "There's someone else," I said. "I heard you." She didn't deny it. "His name is Michael. He's a UX designer at my job. We've only been on a few dates." "Dates?" I repeated, stunned. "So the open marriage thing was just damage control. You were already seeing him." "I wasn't," she snapped. "Not until after I talked to you about it." "Oh, well, that makes it all okay," I said, voice trembling with disbelief. "I'm being honest with you now, Francis. We can still make this work. You could date too. We'd set boundaries, rules. It's not that strange anymore." "I don't want anyone else," I told her. "I want you. But you don't want me anymore, do you?" She didn't answer, and that silence said more than any words could. That night, I moved my things into the basement. I couldn't sleep beside her anymore. She watched me carry my things down the stairs, never once stopping me, never saying a word. We continued living in the same house, sharing the same space, but the marriage had already ended. We lived like strangers beneath the same roof, bound more by routine than connection. Silence filled the gaps where conversation used to live. Sometimes we still ate dinner together, but words had long since vanished. She'd scroll endlessly on her phone, lost in some digital elsewhere, while I sat across from her, eating without thought, the weight of discomfort gnawing at my insides. On the worst evenings, I didn't return home at all. I'd just drive with no direction, the quiet hum of the engine my only company as I stared through the windshield into nothing. The same question followed me like a shadow. How did it unravel like this? Then came a Friday night that broke the pattern. I stayed out late, lingering at a friend's house, seeking escape from the thick, breathless silence that had settled in our home like rot. When I finally pulled into the driveway just before midnight, her car wasn't there. I didn't need a reason or excuse. I already knew. I walked inside without turning on a light, settled into the living room chair, and waited. No pacing, no shouting, just stillness. My arms crossed, not angry, just empty. I'd run out of emotions to burn. At 1:37 a.m., she stepped through the door. Her hair was tousled, lipstick smudged into a suggestion. The click of her heels on the floor was sharp, definitive, like a gavel strike. She froze when she saw me. There was a flicker in her expression, a barely there twitch, but I caught it. "Why are you still awake?" she asked, trying to sound unfazed. My eyes lingered on her. The scent reached me, a familiar fragrance mixed with a foreign cologne. I didn't need confirmation, but I asked anyway. "Was it Michael?" She hesitated for just a moment, then gave a small, indifferent nod, like she was confirming a shipment had arrived. "Yeah, I told you I was seeing him." "You think this works?" I asked calmly. "Living here while spending your nights with someone else?" "I've been honest with you," she replied. "No," I said, motioning to her messy appearance, to the guilt she hadn't fully scrubbed off. "You tried to rebrand cheating as some enlightened relationship style, but this is just betrayal wrapped in buzzwords." Her expression hardened. "You're being dramatic." "No, Kara. I'm just done lying. To you and to myself." She opened her mouth, maybe to protest, but nothing came out. I stood, slowly, letting the silence widen between us. "You ended us," I said. "I'm just the one finally admitting it." Then I walked past her, down the stairs. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't bluffing. I meant every word. Word got around quickly. Soon, Kara's sister Susan had assembled her own intervention squad. One uneventful Sunday, I walked in from the garage to find them all arranged in my living room. Susan, her ever-opinionated friend Jasmine, and even Melody, the yoga devotee with unsolicited wisdom. "Francis, do you have a minute?" Susan asked, all sugar and strategy. "Not really," I said, tossing my keys on the counter, "but I doubt that's going to stop you." They launched into their rehearsed monologue. Times had changed. Love was fluid. Marriage wasn't what it used to be. You're being rigid, Jasmine added. Kara's trying to bring you into this. That's brave. That's real love. I nearly laughed. Love? That's what we're calling this now? Melody piped up. You're just afraid she'll find someone better. I locked eyes with her. She already did. And the tragic part? I don't even care anymore. The room went quiet. I had loved Kara. Deeply, genuinely. I gave her everything I had. But the moment she called someone else's arms her liberation, she made her choice. I was just making mine. I didn't immediately head to a divorce lawyer. Maybe I was still clinging to denial. Maybe I hoped she'd wake up and realize what she was throwing away. But part of me knew better. So I stopped hoping. I got smarter, colder, quietly tactical. I hired a private investigator. Not because I needed emotional closure, I'd buried that long ago, but because I needed facts, leverage, insurance, in case things turned ugly. And given how careless Kara had become, I didn't think it would take long. I was right. 9 days later, the investigator handed me the first set of proof. Photos. Her and Michael at a rooftop lounge downtown. Her hand resting on his thigh, his mouth at her ear, every image time-stamped. So much for her transparency. Then came the video footage. Grainy, but damning. A parking garage by her office. She approaches his car. They kiss, clingy and reckless. She gets in. The car doesn't move for 42 minutes. Next day, same location, same ritual. Then came hotel snapshots. Taken from across the street, outside a mid-range hotel just off the highway. Different dates, same outcome. She checks in under her real name. He shows up shortly after. No attempts to be discreet. No clever cover. One photo carved itself into my memory. Them walking out the next morning. Her dress from the night before still hugging her frame, hair pulled back in a lazy bun, sunglasses hiding her eyes. Smiling. He held her laptop bag like it was no big deal, like it was part of his routine. That's what shattered me. Not the betrayal itself, but the ease of it all. As if none of it was accidental. As if this wasn't a lapse in judgment. No, it was intentional. A parallel life, sustained by lies and careful planning. And still, every night, she'd come home and smile like everything was perfectly ordinary. That's when the ache gave way. The grief didn't deepen. It hardened into something sharper. It wasn't rage. It wasn't chaos. Just a cold, unwavering certainty, like a light flicking on after stumbling through darkness for far too long. I took everything the private investigator handed me, photos, receipts, detailed reports, and printed it all. I slipped it into a plain manila folder, unmarked. No need for drama, just the facts. I placed it on the dining table like a quiet verdict. On top, a short handwritten note. I'd already sent copies to my lawyer. Divorce papers were on the way. I didn't stick around for a fight. I didn't steel myself for tears or screaming. I made myself dinner, poured a glass of whiskey, and slept through the night. For the first time in weeks, I actually slept. Deep, uninterrupted rest. No nightmares, no restless tossing. No 3 a.m. spirals wondering where she was or who she was with. By the next morning, the folder had disappeared. She didn't say a word. She didn't have to. That silence carried more truth than any apology could. What I didn't expect was how quickly her mask would fall. I thought she'd walk away clean. Kara always had a way of staying on her feet. She exuded polish, poise, and an unshakable sense of control. I figured she'd spin it, cast herself as the victim, and carry on like nothing happened. But life doesn't always offer graceful exits. Michael wasn't just some co-worker she caught feelings for. He was her direct report, and the company had strict rules about supervisors dating their subordinates. I never picked up the phone or wrote a formal complaint, but someone did. Someone who maybe had a folder full of irrefutable proof, time-stamped documents, hotel records, discreet surveillance, a narrative impossible to dismiss. HR doesn't typically act fast unless everything's already been handed to them, neatly packaged. About a week after I left that folder out, she came home early one afternoon. I was on the couch, sipping coffee, flipping through channels, soaking in the quiet. She walked in like her legs weighed 100 pounds, dropped her bag on the floor, and stood there frozen, torn between anger and collapse. "They let me go," she said, her voice cracking. Her face was pale, her eyes frantic. "Michael, too." I didn't respond. I didn't ask if she begged, if she wept, if she tried to pin it on him. None of it mattered anymore. That door had already shut. She stood there for a moment longer, as if hoping for compassion, maybe even redemption. I offered neither. She turned and went upstairs, closing the door behind her. Days went by. I caught fragments of her voice in the kitchen, soft and strained. She kept saying his name, over and over, like a prayer. I didn't catch the full conversations, just stammered greetings and long silences. By the end of the week, the calls stopped. Michael had vanished, cut her off completely, blocked her number, erased her from his life, disappeared without explanation. No closure, no last words, no storybook ending. Suddenly, the future she thought was hers disappeared. No job, no lover, no control over the narrative. And worst of all, she was still under the same roof as the man she threw away. But after a couple weeks, she packed up and left, moved into a condo across town while the divorce made its way through the system. Months passed. The separation turned out smoother than I expected. No drawn-out legal fights, no emotional showdowns. She didn't resist. I think by then she understood she'd lost more than just the argument. She'd lost the moral high ground and the will to fight. When the dust finally settled, I kept the house. A few people criticized me, said I was being too cold, too unyielding. But the ones who truly knew me didn't question it. I wasn't chasing some modern idea of love reimagined. I just wanted my marriage. I wanted Kara. But the woman I'd married was already gone. A few months later, she messaged me. It was long, rambling, full of guilt, full of sorrow. She missed what we had, said she hadn't realized how good it truly was, that she'd made a huge mistake. I never replied. Some things are better left untouched. Some silences carry more weight than any words. And if you're reading this, take this with you. Love can't exist without trust. It's not a trend. It's not a phase. You don't fix a marriage by setting it ablaze and calling it evolution. And if someone ever asks you to betray your values to make their life easier, remember this: your self-respect is not up for compromise. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.